and welcome to the Whoniverse and to one of the weirder videos I've made, as today I'm trying to work out, once and for all, one of the most confusing questions created since Doctor Who's return to TV in 2005. Is Captain Jack the face of Bo? I'm going to be looking at everything from interviews with cast and crew, references made within the show and surrounding the two characters, while of course providing a recap of how this question came up in the first place, and who this 51st century guy and this head in a jar are, and if you've never heard them before. I'll also use all this to answer the question if they're in fact one and the same, and how it could be possible. So starting off, if you don't know Jack, you're about to. Him and the Doctor go way back, first meeting the Time Lord in his 9th incarnation. Harkness was a former time agent turned into a con man camped out in World War II London, trying to find an unfortunate bidder on a worthless item, a Tula ambulance, an alien medical ship thought to be empty but actually housing a swarm of intelligent tiny robots, capable of healing wounds and bringing life, but only with the right template to work from. Nanogenes. The con went wrong, and it was up to the Doctor, Rose and Jack to save humanity before disaster struck. Full of charm and charisma, Jack wasn't exactly a conventional companion, a man who had the potential to be like the Doctor with his bravery and heroism improved upon throughout his time with our favourite Time Lord. Harkness was sci-fi smart, resourceful and ready for anything, plus was one of Doctor Who's first openly gay members in the TARDIS team, who often wore not only braces, but also a belt to keep his trousers up. As the Doctor put it, he's a bit more flexible when it comes to dancing. Jack travelled in the TARDIS for a while, saving worlds and stopping evil with Rose and the Doctor until they came up against a new Dalek Empire, fighting for their lives on a weathered satellite above the Earth in the far, far future. Jack was exterminated by the Daleks, killing him. However, using the heart of the TARDIS, Rose brought Jack back to life, although she didn't know that it was for forever. Captain Jack became a fixed point in time and was abandoned by the Doctor because of this. It sounds horrible, but in fact for the Doctor as a Time Lord, it went against everything he was taught. Jack was an element of time that could never be killed or removed from the universe. He became a fact. Jack used a rough form of time travel via a capsule called a vortex manipulator, which brought him to Earth in Victorian times, looking for the Doctor and unaware of his immortality, until later he waited for his friend to return until the early 21st century, when he was reunited with the Doctor, who had since changed his face. He travelled in the TARDIS for a few adventures, but only under the most dangerous scenario. After everything, he didn't want to keep travelling in time when he had found everything he needed on Earth, in a small team of alien hunters and Earth defenders, outside the government, beyond the police. Torchwood. An organisation torn down by the Time Lord and changed by the former Time Agent, a great TV series too I have to add, which I'm not going to spoil here, but some of the stories really do add so much more to the characters and to the Doctor Who universe. Overall, Jack is a tragic character who at times has the blessing of life and others the curse, watching those he loves turn to dust. Eventually Jack would leave Earth after suffering tragedy after horrific tragedy, eventually meeting Ryan, Yaz and Graham in deep space, piloting a stolen ship, ready to help the Doctor once more. One time, while parting ways with the Doctor, Jack mentioned, "I used to be a poster boy when I was a kid living on the Beauchene Peninsula, tiny little place. I was the first one ever to be signed up for the Time Agency. They were so proud of me. The face of Bo, they called me." The face of Bo. At the time it was an insane twist and still is today. I mean, can you imagine reading the script for the first time?
Well, the day that the script when the scripts came out in Doctor Who, they usually came out a few days earlier so you could read them, prep to go to the read-through, then to see if they want to change anything for the next show. So David and I would get the scripts when we were working. I would get mine. David always got his the first because he was the Doctor, obviously. And so David got his script and he read his script and was like, da, 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 and I'm in my trailer. I don't read my script till the read-through because I don't want to go ahead. I don't want to spoil what I'm doing at that moment. David read his script and all I hear is this. He comes up to I'm in my trailer having my lunch, we had our lunch break, and he comes up to my door and I hear this. John, like, what am I writing? John, you won't believe it. I said, don't tell me! I don't want to know nothing! Go away! So he leaves. Next day, lunchtime, we're at lunch, and I'm in my trailer having lunch, and I get this. I'm like, go away, don't tell me! Have you ready yet? No, I'm ready yet! Okay, just go away! Next day, I read the script. I run to David's trailer. I read it again! There's the one! He's like, I don't believe that! Oh my god! Excuse me! Unbelievable! See you on Saturday. But literally. And then couple of weeks, months or so later, we have pizza or something and watch an episode. And we're watching this episode where I turn and I go, I remember when I was on the Beauchene Peninsula, they used to call me the face of Bo. And I thought, this is gonna be awesome. We're in the apartment. I walk up to the window just before that line and I open the window. David says, what are you doing? I said, I'm just waiting to hear the nation's jaw drop. And not only did the nation, but the world. One of the most brilliant plot twists ever.
So yeah, the face of Bo is basically this ancient, wise and lonely figure, a head in a jar, and the last of its kind, facing eternity and full to the brim of knowledge and experience. Now, not much is known about the character, but the rest of the Bo kind became extinct long ago. He's the only one left. Legend says that the face of Bo has watched the universe grow old. There's all sorts of superstitions around him. One story says that just before his death, the face of Bo would impart his great secret. That he will speak those words only to one like himself. It's said he'll talk to a wanderer, to the man without a home, the lonely god. It was this secret spoken to the Doctor, as the face's time ran out, that strengthens the idea that the face of Bo is Jack. So we have two pieces of the puzzle, being these two characters, and a small sentence trying to string them together. Surely there must be more. Well, let's firstly look into that secret a little bit. I'll say what it is, but I'm not going to go over its significance because if you haven't watched a certain episode, it ruins a spectacular reveal. Basically, the face of Bo says, "You are not alone," which turns out to be a well-crafted coded reveal of another character's true identity. This character was only known by a small selection of people in the far, far future, to where the secret was spoken. One of the few people who encountered this character was Jack. So what does this tell us? The face of Bo had experienced time travel to obtain knowledge of the future before it had even been set? No. I think he had lived through those events in his own past, a past that Jack Harkness had lived through. Now, a little behind the scenes fact is that the face of Bo wasn't intended to be a recurring character at first, otherwise his name may have been different, as it was thought to have been a playful nod to the Rudyard Kipling poem The Ballad of Bo de Phone, in which a legendary soldier is beheaded. Now, speaking of literature, Russell T Davies, past showrunner of Doctor Who and the era of the show where all these events took place, said, "It wasn't exactly planned. I did spend a long time thinking about Jack's immortality, and one day it occurred to me that there was another immortal character on the show. It made me laugh. There are these spin-off books and comic books, and every now and then I'll see a script for one of them where they say definitively that he's the face of Bo, and I always stop those from being printed. I have my own personal theories, but the moment it becomes very true or very false, the joke dies." It's interesting and may have been a joke at first, but of course, as Doctor Who fans, even jokes have their shocks, twists, turns and theories to be made about. Other cast and crew members have also talked about the cap being a big old head in a smoky jar, with producer Julie Gardner stating outright at the 2008 San Diego Comic-Con that the face of Bo is Jack Harkness. Similarly, the Torchwood declassified featurette from Torchwood Series 2 has John Barrowman and David Tennant going along with this weird and wonderful idea. But how could a time-hopping hero turn into, well, a huge face? Well, there was a theory a while back which had Jack go head-to-head with the Headless Monks, an enemy seen in A Good Man Goes to War, an episode he was actually meant to appear in, but couldn't due to filming clashing with Torchwood Miracle Day. In this encounter, some think he may have lost his head but remained alive, evolving and changing over time into this huge head. Now that sounds pretty weird, and potentially correct. However, in Torchwood Children of Earth, Jack is literally blown apart by a bomb to a point where he just is a few bits in a body bag. It's truly gruesome, but he came back to life piece by piece, morphing together from nothing, until he was a man once more. So if this head was taken off, it would surely just reassemble with the rest of his body. If that theory is wrong, then what's right? Well, my idea is that Jack becomes the face of Bo either due to evolution and age changing his form into one that is best adapted for him over time, with his 51st century DNA and most likely not being 100% pure human. His biology has potential to be slightly different, with it going through the same process as early humans were proposed to experience through generations and countless years. Jack would experience this as one man, with his age, be it at a slow rate, eventually changing him. But what if simple biological evolution isn't enough? Now that sounds way too easy for Doctor Who. This is where part 2 comes in. Do you remember at the start of the video I chatted about these tiny robots called nanogenes? Well, in a perfect end to the character as we know him, in a form of circular narrative tying that beginning to the ending, we could see these tiny robots rewrite his biology. In the first story we see Jack. These mini miracle workers escape and get confused when they find a child's body after he was violently killed. Confused as what a human is meant to be, they patched up the corpse the best they could, restoring his life, but leaving his mind confused. Empty. The empty child's body was a mix of injuries and a gas mask made of flesh, because that's what the nanogenes thought humans were, as the first member of humanity they encountered was literally in bits. So these tiny robots rewrite biology, someone's physical form. Now imagine Captain Jack on a distant world, alone and injured, with time starting to run out, the universe itself rotting away. A fixed point isn't what it used to be, and like characters such as Logan from Marvel Comics, his healing factor isn't as strong anymore, something Jack experienced in Miracle Day. He lies injured and broken until these nanogenes appear, healing his body but changing it to fit their programming from the time or world Jack finds his feet on. Jack's entire molecular structure is changed, the cells not destroyed but rewritten, preventing his now limited healing abilities to revert him back into his humanoid appearance. His life is sustained within a chamber as his age increases after all those years of travelling. Eventually he finds himself in the care of Novice Haim at the Hospital of New Earth, ready to part with his secret, summoning the Doctor to him. However, he didn't die that day, but one only a few years in the future. One of the few survivors of a deadly virus called Bliss. He saved the people of New York, giving his life force to keep them safe, until he used his last. It was then he passed on his secret and passed away. Now one last bit of information that might debunk all the theories about Captain Jack being the face of Bo is the fact that in the episode The Long Game, one of the news channels in the far, far future reported the face of Bo was in fact pregnant. Now this may seem odd for Jack, apart from a throwaway line about never getting pregnant again in Torchwood's very first episode. However, The Long Game was an episode all about fake news and the ideals of journalism, with the truth and the headlines often being two very different things, so it's possible that the baby Bo Minor was just an invention of the brains of Satellite 5. Either way, child or not, Jack is the only one who has the immortality. He's the only one who is a fixed point in time. So eventually, as the legends go, he would be the last of his kind. So, all things considered, that is my thoughts on the Face of Bo Captain Jack debate that's been going strong for many years now. What do you think? Is Captain Jack really the Face of Bo? Do you have your own version of events that turns our handsome hero into a big old face? Let me know in the comments below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more videos, and of course, check out my Patreon page like Stefan Pastran, who helps support the channel every month and unlocks plenty of awesome rewards, like special mentions, 24 early access to a selection of videos, and an exclusive poster every single month. With all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.